Denisha Youssef, Donna Eugene, Dana Grano, Shireen Mills, Sasha Tyson. One will be crowned Miss Dominica Carnival Queen 2026. February 12th at 8 p.m. at the Carnival City under the theme Booyah Bloom. Contestants will compete live in question and answer, talent, swimwear, evening wear, and national spectacular wear. Get your tickets now at dominicafestivals.com, Deepex Scholar Lab, Bullseye Pharmacy, and the Discover Dominica Authority's office on Great Marlborough Street in Roseau. VIP tickets are $250. Sitting is $100 and standing is $65. For more information, visit dominicafestivals.com and follow Dominica Festivals on Facebook and Instagram. You've heard the names. Now come see the night. Be there when the crowd is decided.
The land of Bouillon invites you to immerse yourself in a diverse cultural experience. The Real Mass Dominica's Carnival, January 10, February 18, 2026. See you there. More information available at www.dominicafestivals.com. Come to the home of the Real Mass Dominica's Carnival, January 10 to February 18. Plus, Dominic 2026. Book your flight today. DominicaFestivals.com.
All right, Dominica, we're here. You know, it's a stop with our friends there from Discover Dominica. Before we get into the big discussions there. I know it's a bouillon time, so we have to get excited, huh? And we hear, of course, the big show is coming up this week, huh? At the end of the week, I think Thursday. The ladies are ready, but we're here to talk about Carnival and a lot more. Good afternoon to you, young lady. How you doing?
Good afternoon to you, Matt, and good afternoon to all the listeners of Q95. Happy Booyah Day, Dominica. This is our day that we celebrate all things Booyah in Dominica. We celebrate the artists, we celebrate the music, and this evening we have a big celebration in the capital city on Hanover Street. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. I hope you have tapped into your Booyah artists. Say hi, say hello. It's the Booyah Day. Let's celebrate Dominica's Booyah music. And good afternoon to you, Matt. How are you doing?
Good afternoon to you.
Man in purple.
I am observing.
Observing. What are you observing, man?
I thought you would have your bouillon outfit, but that's a mix. That's a mix.
Well, Booyah is everything, you know.
That's what I say. It's a mix.
Booyah is everything and
it's
anything.
A mix.
Yes,
it's a mix.
I have black, I have brown, I have red. Yes, it's a Booyah.
All right, good afternoon again, Dominica. It's a Bouillon Day in Dominica. All the artists being exposed on one big street this afternoon, right?
And that is correct. So the event starts at 5 p.m. this evening. From 5 to midnight, we are at Hanover Street in Roseau. If you're not sure where Hanover Street is, then I want you to think of Banana Tree. The restaurant called Banana Tree. If you do not know what or where is Banana Tree, then think Garage, where Garage was before. The street in front of it is called Hanover Street. This is where we're occupying for the entire event this evening. And you are invited to come to Bouillon Day. This is our celebration. The event is absolutely free of charge. So you should come and celebrate Dominica's Bouillon music. We do have a great lineup for you this evening. Asa Bantan, Shelly, Trilogy, Rio, Mr. Ridge, Pooders, Nice, DJ MJ, Kenny G, Guada G, Little Boy, Kwan, Frank White, Freddie, Trix, Faithy, Ebony Empress, DJ Snow, Unstoppable DJs, Trix Migos, Hussey, Nai, Clint H, Deli, Skinny Bantan, TK Combo, and more. So that's lots of artists coming through the big stage this evening. This is going to be a big show.
This is really a bouillon, huh?
That is definitely a bouillon. So the old school meets the new school. This is what we're pushing this evening in celebration of our great international bouillon artists.
All right, Dominica's 1:24 in the afternoon. And of course, last night we had a big event on the Papa Step. A lot of people from the diaspora. It was okay. It was okay. Yes, I got a little rain at the end, but generally it was okay. Everybody seemed to have enjoyed themselves.
Ah, wonderful. Calypso is better this year than last year. So again, want to commend the team for a job well done. And I look forward to the finals on a Saturday.
But before that, we have the Stadium 10 tomorrow.
That is correct. So tomorrow we're on at the Stadium tent, and then on Thursday we head over to the Windsor Park Sports Stadium. So by the way, Carnival City is the Windsor Park Sports Stadium. We're no longer at the forecourt. We have moved to the grounds of the Windsor Park Sports Stadium. So the space that we use for the World Creole Music Festival, that's the same space that we occupy for Carnival City. You'll find all the major events taking place there. So that's where we're having the Miss Dominica National Queen Pageant this Thursday from 8 p.m. We're starting bang on time. So that means if you want to be there, if you want to witness the question and answer segment of the competition, it's imperative that you come on time, as the question and answer is the first round of the competition. We have 5 outstanding young ladies participating and in this year's competition. Representing Grand Bay, contestant 1 and contestant number 2. Contestant number 1, Denisha Yuzeb, and contestant number 2, Dana Eugene. Contestant number 3, representing Jimmet and St. Joseph, we have Miss Shireen Mills. Representing the Atkinson and the Kalinago territory, Dana Grano, and there's contestant number 5, Sanshia Tyson, representing Crayfish River in the Kalinago territory. I can attest that the ladies are ready for this week's showcase. They have been prepared by their team and, of course, Discover Dominica Authority. And the competition this year is going to be very tight. Just this morning, I was having a conversation with an individual, and he too could not identify which individual is going to be crowned Miss Dominica this year. In previous years, we could tell from the beginning, okay, that looks like her, that looks like this. But this year, it's a bit of a challenge. And that's good, right?
Very good.
Good. So we look forward to seeing you at the pageant this Thursday. VIP tickets are $250 EC. VIP, we offer an elevated experience this year. So think you as a VIP attendee, you have your designated entrance, you have front row access, so you're in front of the stage. You have your private bars and drink stalls. There's ushers who are available to serve you. And of course, you have the elevated sitting if you prefer to not stand throughout the evening. Also, you have access to the left and the right side of the venue. So as a VIP attendee of the Miss Dominica National Queen Pageant this Thursday, 8 p.m., you are guaranteed a fantastic experience.
Still more tickets?
We have a few more tickets left for VIP, but we do have tickets for sitting and standing. Standing experience only $100, and sitting, or rather standing, is 65 EC dollars, and sitting is $100. Think regardless of where you are in the audience, you're guaranteed to have a wonderful time at the pageant.
Let me say, Dr. IP, good afternoon to you. That's your favorite song, huh? So the big Queen Show Monarch is on Thursday, followed by...
And the next day, we return back to the Windsor Park Sports Stadium for the biggest fete on the calendar, on the carnival calendar, and that is Sunrise. This is the 6th staging of this event, and it will be bigger than last year. Last year, we witnessed over 5,000 attendees. So this year, we anticipate more than 6,000 persons coming through to the Windsor Park Sports Stadium for this event. The lineup is already prepared. It looks great. So you're invited to come and see DJ MJ and MV on the keys, DJ Taffy and Friends, Rio, Guada G, Trilogy, Muddy out of Grenada, Ricky T out of St. Lucia, Lyrical representing Trinidad, from St. Martin, DJ Big Boss and King James. From Dominica, other artists, Rhythm Knockers, TK International, Pudas, Unstoppable DJs, Kenny G, Ridge, and representing the USA or Sweden, we have DJ Stella. So it's going to be a stellar event, Sunrise. You are welcome to attend. This event does not have a dress code. You are free to dress as comfortably as you wish. Be it you want to be in your heels or flat, fabulous or casual, you're free to express yourself as you like to do so.
What would you be wearing?
Something pretty.
I know I'll take you on that one. Yeah. Something pretty.
Something pretty.
All right, but you will be there.
I will definitely be there. This is a product of Discover Dominica Authority, so I should not miss our event. And this one, VIP tickets, we have just about 5 tickets left for VIP.
You say 5?
Yeah, if 5 if any. This morning when I checked, it was about 10. It should be 5 now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So about 5 tickets left for the pageant, or rather for the Sunrise event. VIP tickets are $500. One ticket costs 500 EC dollars. If you want general admission, that's $200. But at the gate, you will spend 250 EC dollars. So do yourself a favor, save some money for drinks or for whatever it is you want for the carnival season, and get your tickets early for the Sunrise events. Ticket for Sunrise and the Miss Dominica National Queen Pageant. There's 4 locations where you can purchase your tickets. 1 online at dominicafestivals.com, 2 at our office, Discover Dominica Authority on Great Marlborough Street, 3 the Becker Scholar Lab, and 4 Bullseye Pharmacy. So you have options. Get your tickets early. Beat the rush. You do not want to miss Sunrise. It is going to be a wonderful event. And we move from Sunrise on Friday and Saturday, Matt. Where are you heading to on Saturday?
I'm going to the Calypso Finals.
That is correct. Calypso this year is going to be huge. Calypso has VIP this year, guys, so that's pretty exciting. I believe also there is a VIP, or rather a party VIP experience as well for the Calypso season. So that will be amazing for you to witness. And also on Saturday, there are other events happening on Saturday. So I just want to run through the calendar quickly. So you'll be in the know on what you can experience for this week.
Mm-hmm.
So we have, let's go back to Thursday, or rather today's Tuesday. Let's go back to Thursday. Thursday, there's 4 events. So on Thursday, there is the Carnival Departure Lounge. There is the Reggae on the Boardwalk Carnival Edition. There's the Fantasy Fitness Fusion. There is Carnival Gopewell and the Miss Dominica Carnival Queen Pageant. Friday, the 13th, there's 4 events. There's Sunrise, Prime Breakfast, Carnival Edition, Welcome to Paradise by Ecstasy Mass. There's Drift, the Barge Boat Party. I believe they're doing something at the beach this year.
So that is on Friday. On Saturday, there's 4 events that you can select from. Saturday, there's brunch, there's Calypso Finals, there's the Bord La Mer, and there's Viva La Carnival. On Sunday, we have 5 events taking place in Sunday ahead of Carnival Monday. On Sunday, Collio is having their carnival. They dubbed this one Collio Dimanche Gras. There is also Opulence, Booyah for Breakfast, Picnic, and this year they dub it Hawaiian Fiesta. Also happening on Sunday, Rotary South and Punch and Kitty's Carnival. So these are the activities happening the day before Carnival Monday. Of course, Carnival Monday, we start at 4 a.m. with Jouvet. And as of now, we end the carnival at 10 p.m. If the carnival order changes, fingers crossed, and we are permitted extra hour.
You're hoping.
Yeah, fingers crossed. We behaved well last year.
Okay.
We were
getting
good.
an extra hour?
Yeah, we were good last year.
All right.
Yeah. So if the order changes, then we are likely to go up to 11 p.m. But as of now, it is anticipated that carnival will end on Monday at 10 p.m. and on Tuesday at 10 p.m. as well.
So behave yourself. That's the request. Behave yourself.
Yes, definitely. And of course, talking about behavior, just want to slide in. That is important that when we're drinking, we should not drive. There are too many useless accidents happening now, accidents that can be prevented. If you know that you're going to a fete, you're going to an event, please ensure you have a designated driver. If you feel that you drank too much alcohol, please find someone to drive you home. Reach out to someone, sleep it out. Park your vehicle, get a ride with somebody else. Next day, get your vehicle and return home. But we need to do better to reduce the number of accidents that's happening. People are dying uselessly. Doesn't make sense that you go dress up and get killed the same day. You're not going to a fete to die. You're going to a fete to enjoy yourself, then reach home safely. So think your safety is important to you, and you need to do or take the necessary steps to ensure that you survive 2026. And when God is ready for you, He takes you.
You can see the busy week ahead, huh? And the Energizer Bunny is here to tell you all about it. We'll be wrapping it up in a little while there. Bouillon, don't forget, from 5 this evening, right?
That's correct.
Any final comments before you go?
Definitely final comments. Want to invite everyone to join us in celebrating our carnival. Even as Discover Dominica Authority are the ones planning and marketing the event, and the government of Dominica is the presenting sponsor. This is a product of Dominica, made for Dominicans and, of course, our visitors. Let's do our best to ensure that we have a safe carnival. Keep in mind that good service is imperative throughout the season and beyond. Treat the foreigners well when they come to you, and also treat the locals well as well. All right, so let's balance great service with safety. There's no need to jack up the prices because you see a foreign national. Let's be fair, let's be responsible, and let's have a great Mass Dominic 2026. If you need more information, all information is on our website, www.dominicafestivals.com. And if you follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Dominica Festivals, you will find all the updates there. So stay in the know, and we'll see you on the road for Carnival and at every other fete that's happening in Dominica during the season. Thank you very much.
See you around. See you around. Well, now.
Was a lot. Police pick up one day and break down them block. It have one block. True. Yeah, them in French. Them man make a call and they get back their bench. Violence on the right, so the police on the run down. They go back MJ and they get some toy gun. Tricks try his best to get a mention, but look up on that like attention. William put on his foot, nothing to the rental. Next day, he kept on fighting round. What he did was the knife. So the partner make a wrong, TK apologize. Push goes it back, and that's what we need. True, cause them dead, they put us in speed. Soon after they still launched the lineup. I see some musicians that do act up. Look stupid, this boy. Every day is something. Yeah, boy. Every day is something. Every day is something. Stop them.
Anybody or anything, and I could do it again. Just like easily.
You asked for your mass camp in 2026, so we got it fixed. It's a mass camp open house every Thursday in this carnival season at the Lot in Portsville. Jam time, 8 p.m. sharp. Let's have one and take pleasure in some of the new 2026 calypsos. We are meeting you halfway with only $10. $10 for entry. Featuring 2026 Calypso finalists and your usual mass camp family. Come on, come on. Let's meet up at the Lot in Portsville this Thursday, 8 p.m. sharp. Good parking, good Calypso, and good ambiance. Expressing gratitude to Q95 FM Radio, Luxurious Loose, VF Inc., DNO, Singola Bloomquist Williams Law Chamber, Comsi TV, Glenn Ducre Law Chamber, Vibes Radio, Joshua Francis Law Chamber, The Lot Bar and Grill, Caribbean Paradise Realty, and Crumbs Bakery.
Fais vite, s'il vous plaît, moi pressé.
Ça let me see Mac. Mac away.
Eh bien, il s'en m'a crédit ou pas qu'à bien. Ouais, millimètre là, même côté à moi d'où là.
Là, il est tout clair. Ek ma take away.
Ça veut dire, ou besoin aller Optifam vitement avant zio vin plus mauvais.
Dis-moi, Mac. Mais pas jodi moi ni problème épice de moi.
Eh bien, c'est Optifam qui n'est plus meilleur docteur zé en pays. À part de ça, Optifam j'ai tiré en chai l'argent à sous frame lunette. Et qui a une plus belle frame lunette qui en style.
Tout ça, eh ben, moi kay check pressure moi avant. Et qu'après, n'a Optifam.
Non à tout fi. Allez là même. Puisqu'il y a qu'à check pressure zio, examiner zio pour licence chauffeur, check pour pisadou, et qu'il y a qu'à jic manager maladies die glaucoma et puis cataracte.
Bon, qui côté Optifam yé?
Optifam at 223 Great Marlborough Street, 2 Point Queens, Amwazoo. Telephone 440-8486. Eh bien, 285-8676.
Bon Dieu, merci oui pour Optifam. Yo c'est numéro yon pour occupation zio.
Treat yourself, your family, or a loved one to a comprehensive eye examination at Optifarm Eye Center to check for 20/20 vision. Also inquire about or telemedicine services, filling of external eyeglasses prescriptions, and specials on eyewear.
Also opened is A-Medic Urgent Care and Telemedicine Center, offering specialized and general healthcare. Call 612-1328 or come in for your appointment. You could also visit our new location.
Rotary Club of Dominica and the Flow presents the original Salt and Punch All White Affair Fantasy Island. February 15th, that's Carnival Sunday from 3 p.m. at Zaman Park in Maho. Hosted by the one and only Ezra the Fun Machine alongside Imranadi out of St. Lucia, LED band artists out of Grenada, Trilogy, Rio, Sweet Stars, and Man in Harmony. DJ Lineup, DJ Flip the Boss, DJ Snow, DJ Spawner, DJ Chen out of St. Lucia, Unstoppable DJ, DJ Alfie, the legendary DJ Cut, Stinker Supreme, and Hollywood HP out of St. Lucia. Complimentary sauce, fish water, and punch until stuff's last. Proceeds go towards community development and also the parking available. Tickets available at DM, Bullseye Pharmacy, Cubist Cut, Network Trading, and it's only 140 EC dollars. Salt and Punch, the only place to be this Carnival Sunday, February 15th. See you there.
Cuba has warned airlines that it is suspending jet fuel supplies for a month because of an energy crisis that has been prompted by the US attack on Venezuela. Now, according to an official at a European carrier, Cuba has told airlines serving the island that starting midnight on Monday into Tuesday, they cannot refuel there. Cuba is reeling from a US ordered halt in shipments from Venezuela after American troops captured Nicolas Maduro earlier last month. The official said planes covering long distance flights from Cuba will now have to stop somewhere after the island to get more jet fuel. The Cuban government on Friday announced emergency measures to address the island's energy crisis, including a 4-day work week for state-owned companies and fuel sale restrictions. The measures include a reduction in bus and train services between provinces and the closure of certain tourist establishments. School days will also be made shorter, and universities will relax requirements on in-person attendance. After Trump's signing of an executive order allowing imposition of tariffs on countries selling oil to Havana, Trump said that Mexico, which has been supplying Cuba with oil since 2023, would stop doing so under US tariffs. Mexico mulls how to send oil to Cuba now without being punished by the US. It sent 2 shipments with humanitarian aid to the country on Sunday. It is expected to reach in 4 days. Shipment of 815 tons, including fresh and powdered milk, beans, rice, and personal hygiene items.
As we said, Dominica, more crisis hitting Cuba. As a matter of fact, I read a report there, and maybe we'll share that with you later, that Canada is taking a lot of its citizens away from Cuba with this pending crisis. And on the line with me is seasoned diplomat, Mr. Crispin Gregoire, to speak about this crisis facing Havana at this time. Mr. Gregoire, good afternoon to you. How are you doing, sir?
Good afternoon, Matt, and good afternoon to your many listeners.
It appears, Mr. Gregoire, we've been speaking a lot of the Caribbean crisis, Venezuela, now Cuba. What is actually going on there?
Well, Matt, what we're seeing is an escalation of the U.S. Operation in the Caribbean. This, as you know well, and many of you know well, this all started in October. I would say that we're now seeing the phase 2 of this operation of the United States in the Caribbean. Washington has stepped up pressure on Cuba's government in the recent weeks. And interestingly, since December, the island has received no oil at all from Venezuela, a close ally of Cuba. And President Trump has ordered a full blockade of sanctioned oil tankers. So the oil going to Cuba has been cut seriously. And then, Cuba's oil suppliers were Venezuela, Mexico, and Russia. The Mexicans attempted to help with this blockade that has emerged, and they were threatened with tariffs. The Trump administration threatened tariffs, I believe, as high as 30% on Mexican products coming into the U.S. And consequently, Mexico has halted shipments to Cuba. So that leaves Russia as the only potential supplier to Cuba. I don't believe that President Putin would want to risk sending his tankers into the Caribbean at this time. So you can see the gravity of the problem. To give you a sense of how much oil that the Cubans lost from Venezuela, they were getting 35,000 barrels of oil a day in exchange for medical services by Cuban doctors. And you know, that whole issue of Cuban doctors in the CARICOM was sort of the first line of attack by the U.S. on the Caribbean country. And so I believe that some kind of intervention in Cuba seems imminent. That's the I say that with great trepidation and also worry, because if Cuba is invaded by the U.S., it will set the whole region on fire. The whole region will. I shudder to think of what the implications will be from South America to the Caribbean to Central America. We could have a very unstable situation with refugees. Matt, I remember in 1980 there was a movement of Cuban refugees from a port called Mariel, and they used to call them they called the Cubans who left Cuba then the Marielitos. And Matt, hundreds of thousands of Cubans left by small boats into Florida. There's a lot to worry about, Matt. Meanwhile, the Canadians, as you mentioned in the news that report that you played before me, Canada is the largest source of tourists to Cuba. And a number of Canadians have already left, but there are about 3,000 of them still on the island of Cuba. And the government and Canada is frantically making efforts to get their people out of Cuba. The same thing for the people from Europe, from Spain, because Spain might be the second largest supplier of tourists to Cuba from Europe. Spain followed by Germany. And both countries have informed their people that the situation is difficult and that they should try to get out. I believe one arrangement was made by an airline from Spain, Air Europa. They have arranged to have their planes still going into Cuba. They have not suspended flights, but their planes are being refueled in the Dominican Republic. Now, that is an option, but not the one that is so tenable, because the Dominican Republic airports are extremely busy with tourists. So, as the largest destination in the Caribbean. So I don't think that other airlines will be that successful in getting that access to the Dominican Republic for refueling. But Matt, that is in a nutshell the situation we have at hand.
What about the CARICOM can't come to the aid of Cuba this time, or they're walking on eggshells?
Well, the only producers of oil in CARICOM, well, you have three countries, although Trinidad has very limited oil these days. So you have Guyana and Suriname. Of course, in both countries, U.S. companies dominate. So I don't know whether the U.S. will allow Guyana and Suriname to send oil to Cuba. As to whether those two countries have refined oil capacities, I don't know. But in any case, Cuba has refineries. If they receive crude oil they can refine. But the question is, how do you get it there? How do you get it past the naval blockade that's outside Cuba? That's really the problem, Matt. There's a naval blockade around Cuba. So any boats going into Cuba be intercepted and stopped by the U.S.
But the question is it really fair to the Cuban people? I mean, if you want to punish the administration, why are the Cuban people being made to pay?
Well, I think, Matt, part of the strategy is to make things so difficult that the people will rise up against the government. And you know, that kind of any kind of upsurge from below could really make the government's ability to hold for security and to keep order. Things could spiral out of control, and you could have a civil war in Cuba. I shudder to think about it, but Matt, it's not looking very good. I should say that the current situation in Cuba is compared to the difficult transition period at the beginning of the 1990s, when, following the collapse of the Soviet Union, the gross domestic product of Cuba fell by more than a third, and oil became a scarce commodity. We almost in that same situation of 1990s after the Soviet collapse. But it's even worse, Matt, because Cuba has been, in the last 50 years, has been under intense pressure from sanctions, from a tightening U.S. Policy on the embargo. So it's just been, they've been just piling up sanctions on Cuba. And the Cubans have been resilient for, 67 years. But I don't know whether they can survive this onslaught.
I don't know. What about, somebody was asking me earlier, what about Caribbean students, including Dominica? You know, how are they going to survive? Should we send a plane in to get the students to come back out? The pressure will be on them as well.
I think that contingency plans should be in place by all of the countries that have students in Cuba. I think they need to have contingency plans for if they have to evacuate their students. I don't want to be presumptuous here, but I would say that I would take a wait and see approach to see how things are going by the end of this week. But by the end of this week, we might see some developments that will probably necessitate that kind of action by governments to look at their students' welfare in Cuba.
Well, what is the alternative? That do they have any alternative at this point in time, but to bow, if you will, to the pressure from America or President Trump?
Well, President Trump has said that he and Mr. Diaz-Canel, President Diaz-Canel of Cuba, they have communicated. The U.S. is willing to sit down with Cuba. I would say,
and basically say what? Say what?
Well, Matt, there are a lot of issues. First of all, the U.S. embargo needs to be lifted. It's as old as the revolution. We're talking about 60, 70 years of an embargo that's made it very impossible for Cuba to trade with the United States, which is the largest market next to Cuba, 90 miles away, and they can't trade with them. They can't receive spare parts for anything made in America. It's been the most difficult, onerous kind of punishment a country has received in recent times, in this last 67 years. Cuba is a country that has been punished severely, simply because they would not go along with an economic and political system like that obtains in the U.S. or in the West. And Cuba has, that Cuban Revolution has contributed to the world. Look at all of the help they gave to African countries fighting for their political independence. So, it's what may unfold in Cuba. We've not seen that book before. So it's difficult to surmise, Matt, what to expect. But I can tell you that the Latin Americans will be furious. And it will not bode well for post-intervention in Cuba, if that is the intention of the administration.
So you expect repercussions at this point in time?
Oh, absolutely, Matt. Absolutely, Matt. The Venezuelan situation is not over yet. It has been like a little stopcock that has been put there for now. This thing is not over. A transition in Venezuela also has its bearing on the rest of the region. So we just have to wait and see. We don't know what the administration has planned, but everything suggests that they have started the process of toppling the government in Venezuela. It's not over yet, and now they have turned to Cuba. And who knows?
Because we've been hearing talk about, Marco Rubio pushing to have regime change, and I think you suggested that before in a conversation.
Yeah, well, I saw this going back as early as October, Matt. Having followed closely Cuban politics, Venezuelan politics, the whole regional imprint of the United States, the whole reality of China in the region, as far as Venezuela is concerned, Russia as well. I saw very early as October, that there was a superpower competition in the region, and that all of this build-up of U.S. arsenal in the Caribbean Sea wasn't just about Venezuela. I always surmised that there was something larger, because an intervention in Cuba, the Cubans will fight back, and it will be bloody if that happens. I hope it doesn't happen, Matt. I hope that there can be a dialogue, and what I would hope would happen, if the U.S. and Cuba should talk, the U.S. with a view to removing the embargo. But I believe that as transactional as Mr. Trump is, President Trump, I believe that they will want something from the Cubans. And what they will want is not necessarily a regime change, but a change of political system to allow a multi-party political system and to move away from a one-party state. I think these are all parts of the...
And do you see that feasible?
I don't know, Matt. That will be the challenge for Cuba. But if I can go by what happened in Eastern Europe after the Soviet collapse, all of these countries were one-party states, and they became multi-party after the collapse, after the transition. So there is a template for what could happen. But I can tell you that one of the U.S. concerns is that Cuba is a communist one-party state, and they would want to change that and to make it multi-party, and so there is a political transition, and maybe the revolution in Cuba has reached that point where it will have to, going forward, that it cannot continue to not allow people of different political persuasions to participate in the political process.
But somebody's asking, Matt, to ask Mr. Gregoire, what is the true situation with human rights in Cuba, the real situation there, if you know?
Yes.
That question has been asked before.
Yes. Well, Cuba does have human rights challenges. Every year, Cuba's human rights issues are brought before the UN. It's brought before the Human Rights Council. And you know, Cuba is a country where the death penalty is used. I don't know how often, but people have been executed there for political crimes. There is, and they have challenges with right now with getting people food and medicine. As much as they have done significant strides in the health sector and delivery of healthcare, the embargo makes it difficult for them to make medicines available to their people. In addition, Matt, their tourism has taken a hit. They have not yet recovered from COVID-19. That is their tourism sector. And the Trump administration has put in some onerous requirements for people who go to Cuba. I'm talking about Europeans in particular, who normally could come to the U.S. for 90 days without a visa. If there's any indication that their backgrounds, that they went to Cuba before, they will never get a visa to the U.S. So a lot of Europeans who have intention to come to the U.S., they will not go to Cuba as tourists because it will mean that in the future they will not get a visa to the U.S. So the Cuban tourism sector is also taking a hit from tightening of visa requirements. And you know, Dominica, we are facing that as well. The U.S. has really tightened visa requirements for people who are not Cubans, but may have visited Cuba before.
Somebody's suggesting here, let me just see if I can read this message here, that the Cuban embargo will not be lifted until Cuba political system changes. That's what you were suggesting earlier. The embargo on Cuba was to send a message to the rest of the Caribbean not to take that path. It was just a reminder. That's what somebody is expressing at this time. So they don't want them to
That's
get...
correct. I agree with that.
You agree with that one?
Yes.
I guess we'll have to...
Matt, we have to always think of what the U.S. is saying. You know, you see, like right now, the CARICOM countries, everybody is so cowed that they're not.
But they're saying nothing. I mean, they're friends of Cuba. A lot of Caribbean countries, CARICOM, and I just find them, you know, conspicuously silent on the issue.
What the Cubans have done for all the CARICOM countries in terms of the human resource development, the range of skills and people who've been trained, the thousands of Caribbean people who've been trained at no cost or very little cost. There's no other country in the world who has done that for the Caribbean. And that is a commendable feat. And the Caribbean people will be outraged, I believe, man, if there is an intervention, a violent intervention into Cuba.
Again, it's a story to watch, and I suspect a lot more will unfold in the next few days because the world is watching. The world is watching.
Yes, the whole world is watching this one. I haven't been somebody who got aligned with Cuba since I was in about 15 years. To see where we are at this point in time, it's really concerning.
All right. Well, I'll say, Mr. Gregor, again, thank you. Thank you for sharing. We always love to discuss issues there in Dominica and, of course, educate our publics. Thank you, Dominica. Thank you. Well, listen to this story there. You know, because it appears that Cuba is breaking blackouts. Hunger nation trying to survive there. Survival mode right now.
Que hace 2 meses, un mes y pico, y todavía no me ha llegado la venta de los cupés en moneda nacional, está parada.
So rough times in Cuba, rough times.
Cuba's worsening fuel crisis is now hitting one of its most critical industries, that is tourism. Resorts are reportedly shutting operations due to gasoline shortages, forcing guests to be relocated to other hotels. And workers say there is not enough fuel for employees to commute, triggering closures during what is normally peak tourist season. Cuban authorities have confirmed a consolidation plan, regrouping tourists into fewer operational hotels to keep services running and protect foreign revenue.
We will guarantee the sustainability of income-generating sectors.
That is very important.
And this is important because without income, we cannot overcome the situation. Therefore, a plan has been designed in the tourism sector to reduce energy consumption, consolidate tourist facilities, and take advantage of the current high season in our country, which is yielding encouraging results, even surpassing those of the previous year.
Shutdowns come after Washington effectively cut off fuel shipments from Cuba's key energy ally, Venezuela, earlier this year. President Donald Trump has also warned of tariffs on countries supplying oil to the island, tightening pressure on Havana's fuel supply. And as a result, Cuba has reduced public transport routes, shortened the work week to 4 days, and shifted some university classes online to conserve energy. Power generation is now covering less than half of peak demand.
All right, Dominic, let's take a few phone calls. Of course, those of you who want to share of this crisis, pending crisis there in Cuba. A lot of people seem to already concerned about maybe whether our students will be flown home after this crisis because Canada, as I just said to you earlier, they're taking Air Canada suspend flights to Cuba due to fuel shortage.
Officials say the Cuban government can't supply fuel at airports, blaming the U.S. oil blockade. Air Canada says it'll fly empty planes to Cuba to bring home about 3,000 travelers. Meanwhile, two other airlines say they will keep flying despite the shortage.
209. So, yes, the crisis is real there. 449-3095. Are you there, caller?
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Matt, can you interact with the ambassador there? Because I think they really want, but he doesn't get a chance to talk to him. Because the issue of United Nations, I don't know what it is used. It is having use people again. So that grouping that was formed in 1998 after World War II to prevent wars and to quell wars, to promote peace in the world. I know what is the use of the United Nations, because some big countries at this time now, they are superpowers and they can just do what they want. Cuba right now is in shit street, I can tell you. I've got a documentary from Al Jazeera 2 weeks ago that showed the dire situation in Cuba. The health system has been decimated. And people have to understand the United States is just putting pressure on these guys because the idea is to create a revolution or against that revolution. That is the outcome. And remove that communist niche in the Caribbean. So that is the objective of the United States. So I know what happened to our students in Cuba where they have to put up going back at the home. Because right now they also have embargo on people have Cuban doctors at the home, in their home, providing health care for people. All that Rubio and them is actually attacking. So the situation there is just critical. And I don't know what it is. There's a thing called the law of the sea. There's a convention that deals with trading of movements of goods and things across the world waters. All these things have been just put out of the window. And these guys just continue to do what they want. You understand? That is the kind of...
So you're saying it's not fair to Cuba. That's what you're saying.
What?
You're saying it's not fair to Cuba.
No, it can't be fair to them because... But what happened in Cuba itself, Cuba, to me right now, they have to open up. They have to look at the rights of people because I itself is a man I believe in human rights. People have to be able to elect freely. And Cuba needs to really start thinking of rejecting back the issues of human rights and opening up to the place. Because Cuba has a lot of potential. If Cuba move away from this communist thing, we in the Caribbean have a whole little problem, you know. Cuban tourism can just kill all tourism in the Caribbean because they close to America and you make more money than us. So they have to look at ways and means of surviving. But basically, United States gonna be squeezing them out. That's it.
Okay, caller, thank you very much for your views, of course. Let's take another phone call. Are you there, caller?
Yes, sir. Where is the Prime Minister of Dominica and all the other leaders in this so-called CARICOM? They are so quick to send their people to Dominica to use tear gas and bullets on them. Where are they? What a bunch of hypocrites. Bunch of hypocrites. He's the world boss. He comes as the world boss, right? Let him go and help Cuba. But I just pray for my native land, Dominica. That's all I could say. Pray for my native land, Dominica.
All right, thank you. Well, as I said, the CARICOM leaders have been conspicuously silent on this one, saying absolutely nothing. Are you there?
Matt, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
Matt, it might be better for them to just keep their mouth shut.
So,
it might have a more favorable effect because you have that madman Donald Trump, who is let me try to describe him. He's a multiple felon for all sorts of criminal activities. He's been a racist from the time he was born. So when Donald Trump is admiring the likes of Putin and the guy in North Korea, he likes all the strong men, you know. He's talking about democracy at the same time. This democracy coming from America, it's a farce. To tell people in a communist country that they should change their system because it's not democracy, quote unquote. And in the meantime, Donald Trump is taking ballot boxes from places and he intends to run again when there's a 2-term limit, etc., etc., etc. Donald Trump personally is a dictator. So when you use this kind of nonsense about morality and democracy, it's a total farce. And people have to recognize that. That's BS. They're trying to feed us. They want to just dominate the region for their purposes, for their white supremacy agenda. It's not really about democracy and morality and those kinds of things. Those are smoke screens. Let's get real. The capitalists, the big American companies that control things, want to dominate the area. They want the oil. They have the oil from Guyana. They want the oil from Venezuela. Whatever Cuba has, they want. They want to change the political system so they can control them. Cuba has resisted them for more than 60 years. They want to roll that back and have control over Cuba. It's about control. It's not about morality, and it's not about anything else except control and making money and dominating people. And even Americans are complaining about it, man. The big corporations, or whatever they call them, in America are squeezing the poor. They're squeezing the poor. While places like Cuba practically have free health care and even extending it to the Caribbean. It was the same Cuba that fought apartheid when President Clinton wanted to hold on to the diamonds of Africa. That's the same one. And Cuba sent soldiers there to fight. We cannot forget that. Mandela said we couldn't forget that. They wanted Mandela to distance himself from Castro. And he said he can't do that. That's who came to help them with military backup. So this hypocrisy where they just want to dominate people and take all their money, even from their own citizens, the citizens of America have to rise up in that same mode and demand free health care. You have one man who's just so rich and he's just thinking about going to space and colonizing the moon, while poor Americans are suffering.
What about the Cuban Americans that that's welcoming the fact that Donald Trump and Marco Rubio is in Cuba?
Well, Matt, what I'm talking about is the foolishness of all these types of thoughts. The poor people who are suffering need to understand that these guys who have gotten really rich by their con artistry, they need to stop it, and they need to start providing free health care. President Obama established this whole Medicaid system, and they want to get rid of it. And poor people cannot afford health care in America. They can't. And these big corporations are just capitalizing and making money. The people need to wake up against these big corporations. I don't want to sound like Bernie Sanders, but I would back Bernie Sanders. If I had to vote in America, Bernie Sanders would get my vote, Matt. Not that.
One voice.
Where's the one voice of CARICOM at this time? Reds.
One of the day. Da da do. Da da day. One Caribbean, one voice, one voice. Yeah, Caribbean leaders got no secret weapon to fight and cause mass destruction. We can show result and show principle and say no, resist the devil. We don't need to climb on each other's back, looking for US scraps, cause the only way we can survive is by calling for what is right. What is right? One voice, you can't invade Caracas. One voice, give us our freedom back. One voice, we are what we are terrible true. One voice, Dr. Holness and Scarecrow too. One voice.
Are they standing in Cuba? Were they standing in Venezuela?
One voice.
On the telephone, let's take a phone call. Are you there? Yes? Uh-huh. Hello? Hello? Nobody there. Hello, talk to me. Good afternoon.
But
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I listen at the send school, but I never complete. You know, bad things take me over. But at the same time, I always be around people with sense and you know, I increase my knowledge or even listening to you. I don't try to motivate some people. But I know for sure, looking at the television and listening about what happened to Cuba, happening and how liberty going on in Cuba, I would never live in Cuba. And I would have liked, and not, when I know somebody was good, and then they have a lot of bad ways, with no use they're good. And if Trump, for example, Skerritt never know, he would be picked up or disciplined by bigger people like Trump. Everybody wants to dominate, but who we want to dominate? China, Russia, who we want to dominate us? And the other thing, man, you see people here. I don't know if you can reach, you have any colleague in Cuba to interview to find out if the people really like the system, how it's going on in Cuba. So when Dominican want to run up them out and talk about dominate, but to me, life in America, I don't support them, and I never tried to go there yet. But to me, life in America, it's song better than anywhere than Russia or any place there. Okay? All right. I'm listening.
All right. Thank you very much. 4493095. Where are the Cuban students? So why are you not speaking out? Hello, talk to me, yes? Uh-huh.
Matt, good afternoon to you, and how are you this afternoon, Matt?
Good afternoon to you too. Good afternoon, yes.
Matt, I am concerned about CARICOM. CARICOM as a group, Matt, should come together and get ways and means to get our students out of Cuba because of that problem that's happening there. They cannot wait until the last moment when there is no flight going into Cuba and to have the students there. I believe as a group, they should come together and look at ways and means to get the students out. That is what I find they should be doing. We're not hearing anything about them, so that they're just waiting to let things take its own course, Matt. And that's unacceptable, man.
So you're saying they should work on getting the students out at this time?
Yes, get them out, and if things get better, then they'll return. But Matt, I mean, if you have your child up there and you're hearing nothing happening, you not be concerned.
True.
Oh, okay.
That's fair comment. Hello, talk to me, yes? Are you there, caller? No, you're not. Try another number. Thank you very much.
It's already not night. In your country, you put in a sunlight. don't want us to deal with China or Cuba. What you want us to do is surrender. Everything you're jumping it down. So in this region, we got to be strong.
222. Hello, yes.
Imagine the white man against the black man. Slavery come back again.
You saying that?
You know yourself, know where you come from. And think about Africa and not America. Oh.
One voice, me and Matty and Terrence True. One voice.
The Caribbean has been conspicuously silent. Hello, talk to me, yes?
Matt, it was an interesting statement that the gentleman made a while ago, you know.
Well, he said what?
He said America sounds better. He's never been to America. He's never tried to go to America, but it sounds better than Cuba. And that's interesting.
I think I think it's more talking. I'm just interpreting what he may have meant. That in terms of the human rights, maybe there's a better record there.
Yes, but it sounds better. That's because America has a better propaganda machinery to brainwash us.
But do you support the the human rights issues that's going on in Cuba?
Do you support the human rights issues going on in America?
Let's compare. Let's chalk and cheese. Chalk and cheese. Let's get the facts.
Matt, how is it chalk and cheese? And is it accelerating in America under Trump? Accelerating. So how do we?
No. But you're talking about an incident or two, and I agree with you that has been happening. But we're talking about years of human rights abuse in Cuba as it relates to America. My friend, just do the research. Hello, talk to me on the telephone, yes? No, you can't compare the two on that one. Like China. Hello, talk to me, yes?
Yeah, Matt, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, yes.
The question you asked the regular caller, he called back a while ago. He did not answer that, you know. He didn't answer your question. Remember now, a lot of Cubans won their freedom.
True.
They won their freedom. So the same thing he's talking about in Dominica that carried harvest under dictatorship. A lot of Cubans, they won their freedom. So I don't know what is he, talking about. And
I'm just telling him to check the human rights records in America and check the human rights record as it relates to Cuba. We saw in recent times, and I don't condone what Mr. Trump is doing, but in terms of the records there, human rights, just do a little research and we'll find out.
Yeah, man, and people want their freedom. Would he be happy that in Dominica we have a lot of shortages, electricity-wise and stuff like that? Cubans are feeling this pressure for years. So they want a change. A lot of people in Cuba want a different approach. So he's talking against America, pro-Cuba. In Dominica now, he against the Prime Minister. And I don't understand. He needs to get his stuff in order. Yeah.
Get his act together. On the telephone, are you there, fella? Yes, 225. I'm not saying what Trump is doing is right, but I'm saying in terms of the records, we can't compare the two for sure. Hello? Yes, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, my brother.
My brother, how you doing?
Sometimes when I listen to our conversation, I think a lot of times we miss the mark and we go with the small parts of the conversation, which is nothing wrong with that. But let us look at the big picture, Mark. Let me take you back to the era of what they call the Cold War with Reagan and Gorbachev. Okay? When America was always nervous about whether you're going to have the Third World War. Okay, you remember them days? We are back here now again. But this time it's not with just Russia. It's more with China, Matt. Matt, I've read the book one time. I don't have it now because I got rid of it. I gave it to somebody else. Resource wars. Resource wars, Matt, is driving us into an area where we haven't seen before in our lifetime. People who lived through the Second World War and First World War can talk about where we're heading now. And they know where we've been. I.e., Matt, you have China right now has very, very big influence in the region, Matt. China has in Dominica one of the biggest, I've heard, of embassy in the region. They have economic zone in Antigua, the whole swap of land just given to the Chinese, over 1,000-acre land, where they could have a city within or a country within the country. They control who comes in, who goes out, who get a passport, who not. And the people of Antigua have to pay for the security. Right? We have Cuba, which is right next door to America, which is a communist country. And I hear you keep telling people about human rights. But one guy said about the United Nations. What we have failed to understand, Matt, United Nations is a black and it's kind of hemispheric. And when I say hemispheric, you have north, south, east, and west, Matt. They mainly controlled by the European nation, and the European nation come first at all times. How many times you ever hear a European nation leader or dictator end up in The Hague and be jailed? You hear more African leaders, Matt. We must understand what we are dealing with. Our problems are much deeper than the surface, and we must know some history. I was the one who sent you something about Marco Rubio a while ago. Marco Rubio has been a proponent of regime change in Cuba long before Trump came in. He was one of them as a senator, a younger senator, always talking about that. From days of you talking George Bush and all these. But now he gets to be Secretary of State, Matt. Secretary of State, Matt, called some shots. They could influence the president in action. And Marco Rubio is a son of Cuban dissidents who live in Cuba today. That's why the Cubans in America, in Miami, always vote Republican, because they always feel that a Republican government is gonna give them back Cuba. Okay? And not only that, man, we're talking about the resource I started earlier on. China controls most of the world resources. Now today we have China mining in Baymonch. We don't know whether it's for what they say for the airport or for copper, but everybody believes it's copper, man. And America right now is trying to control a lot of resources as like material for like high tech, what we are in now, you know, computer, what they call them, copper, cobalt, name all the materials. I read over and over. Sometimes I can't come up with some of the names. But all these things, the same issue with Greenland, and America wants to control the whole region, okay, from most of North America to the whole Caribbean, because of they are where we were during the Cold War, man. We must understand this thing. So yes, we see our liquor self in the game, but we are pawns in the game, man. The elephants are fighting now, and we down there talking about liquor things. They ain't worried about human rights. They ain't worried about who gonna run Cuba. Because if they and you mentioned that with Crispin. If Trump decide they're gonna run Cuba, Matt, even if they pick somebody in the Cuban government today, that person gonna do what America wants done, because it is gonna be controlled in a way that it benefits America. Like in Venezuela right now. That lady has no way out because she was part of the regime. So they put her in there and they know her every move, and whatever she do or say, she gonna be the one on the chopping block, man. Because the CIA, like I tell you already, is on there. The CIA was in there all along, and Maduro knew nothing about it. This is how they take him down. I don't think the CIA is not working in Cuba or in our little islands and wherever. Matt, like I always tell you, my brother, I'm gonna let you go. They are monitoring you from land, air, and sea. You are under surveillance 24/7. My brother, I'm listening. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Let's talk a little bit there, and of course, play that report where Cuba Airlines no longer in refuel there. It's a very interesting report. Let's do that and come back.
China's foreign ministry says it will always provide support to Cuba where possible amid a worsening fuel crisis on the island. Cuban aviation officials warned airlines on Sunday that there is now not enough fuel for airplanes to refuel on the island. The Trump administration has effectively severed Cuba's access to its primary petroleum sources in Venezuela and Mexico. For more on that, we're joined by our International Affairs Editor, Kedavan Gorjestani. Hi, Kedavan. So, international airlines now considering suspending their operations in Cuba. How did it come to this?
Well, as you said, over the weekend, you had that notice to pilots, to airlines, that all of the airports of Cuba would no longer be able to provide refueling services to airlines starting on Tuesday and lasting for at least a month. So that is a pretty long time, including Havana's International Airport, where you have a lot of international airlines coming in. And some, like Air Canada, have announced that they would be starting from today to suspend their operations once they've managed to bring back all of the customers that are currently in Cuba. Other airlines are saying that for now, they have decided to go a different route, meaning they're going to be having refueling stops in nearby airports, like in the Bahamas or in the Dominican Republic. Now, it's not the first time that there have been fuel shortages and refueling has been a problem. So airlines are sort of used to that. But the scale of this shortage is why you're seeing some airlines simply say, this is too complicated. We're simply going to stop. And it's also the latest consequence, as you said, of the US's oil blockade in the Caribbean. Now, Cuba has been under U.S. sanctions and embargo for decades, but the U.S. operation in Venezuela has made things much worse for Cuba. Why? Because Venezuela was the number one oil resource for the Cuban government, but no oil from Venezuela has come since mid-December. And Donald Trump added to that the fact that he threatened tariffs on any country who would provide more oil to Cuba. And that's why you see Mexico, the second larger supplier of Cuba, saying right now we're halting our oil shipments because we don't want to get those tariffs from the U.S.
What is Trump doing? What's his end game with Cuba?
Well, look, the idea, and some in the Trump administration have said it very clearly, is to suffocate Cuba. There's a longstanding thought within the hawkish wing of the Republican Party, like the likes of Secretary of State Marco Rubio, that believe that cutting off the oil from Venezuela to Cuba is going to lead to a collapse of the regime, a collapse of the economy that will trigger an uprising of the people that would trigger the fall of the regime. So it is one, the possibility of that happening sort of inherently from within Cuba, or push the regime to actually discuss and have talks and change. And to that end, there is a little bit of movement. Just last week, Miguel Diaz-Canel, the president of Cuba, said that Cuba was, quote, willing to engage in a dialogue with the United States, but without pressure or preconditions. And on Sunday, Donald Trump responded, claiming that high-level talks had actually begun between the United States and Cuba without providing any other details. He said, I think we're going to be making a deal with Cuba. The thing is, Cuba is not Venezuela. Cuba has not really much to offer to the Americans. It doesn't have oil. The second thing is there is no natural sort of successor to the regime in Cuba like there was in Venezuela. So we'll see where this goes.
All right, Dominica, we're here 449-3095-96 and 97. Again to Mr. Red. So one voice. Let's talk. Let's talk for Cuba.
One voice. One voice. One voice. Oh, daddy, da da do, da da
On the telephone, hello, yes. Are you there?
Matt, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. How are you? Yes.
Okay, Matt, lest we forget.
Lest we forget, yeah.
When Hurricane David hit us, Cuba had a meeting of the non-aligned countries, and they managed to get $25 million from Cuba. There's Rosie Douglas and what's name Wilshire. And they got money from Cuba. Cuba interested. Cuba was the host. So you mustn't just feel well Cuba was going to play an important role. I want to ask, where is Alba? Where is the big boy of Alba? Used to be all talking about Cuba and Alba and Venezuela. I'm not hearing him at all. What has happened? Because he was the first man who began to tell us about Alba and Venezuela. At the same time, Cuba has done well for us. And it wasn't just begin to say about America. I mean, people have a right to say what America is. America not so free as they think, you know. But against black people now, look at what happened, the problem with them. A lot of black people have been a lot of pressure on them. So, I mean, what I would like to see, what is the government doing? The Prime Minister, he told me some time ago, he had gone to somewhere in the Middle East.
Dubai.
Well, right. Well, what is he doing now in that certain time? All the world leaders had met there. Was Cuba represented? Was all these countries met there? You know, I don't know if you asked him that, but he went up there and tell us anything about what happened. The world leaders had some meeting. And instead of he was wrong here trying to organize ourselves and to ensure that our children will be safe and come back. I saw a thing where the Canadians were telling the people what to do, how to organize themselves, right? On YouTube, how to organize themselves, not to travel along, try their best to make sure they don't travel too much to any far distances because it may have a shortage. And the Canadians are trying to get the people out. Are they doing anything for us, for our children? Where is the leader? Where is the Alba boss? You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's not required. I agree. I don't think we can fight against America. We can fight against America. I don't think that we can do anything towards America because Trump has decided, well, boy, I want to mash all you. I want the Monroe, but the Trump, the Monroe doctrine or the Trump doctrine must come. Donald doctrine must come in place. But I mean, let's forget Cuba. Cuba give us all other people got masters. They could have gone to university and they go through the sad thing. Unless we forget, since the beginning I started saying that we might be in a position where they might want to put an embargo on us getting oil. And that is where we have a problem. Let's pray God that Donald Trump will look at us and demand what he wants. Let's pray God, as you said, no boats must come to Dominica for oil. Okay, but Matt?
All right, caller, thank you very much again for your views. Hello.
Matt Pelty, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to your listeners.
Yes.
I'm listening to your conversation again. And like I have said, I think too many times when we have this conversation, we talk about them. I'm talking about the Cuba situation. We talk about them in the current context without understanding, appreciating the history of why we are where we are. And a couple of the callers have mentioned it. Marco Rubio is a product of the communist regime. His family, like many others, were forced to leave. And he has risen to prominence because he was given an opportunity he wouldn't have been able to do otherwise in the US and became the Secretary of State. And as the Secretary of State, having enough influence on the US government, he now has the ability to continue the pressure that has existed for the past 60 years in Cuba. Matt Pelty, like Greg was said, Cuba is an example to the rest of the Caribbean to not go down the communism route. And as much as many of us do not like Trump, but just imagine if Trump was to get his way as a dictator in America and democracy in America was to die, and an individual of Trump was to take power in that country, make himself a king, and pass on his power to his sons and the little ones that are coming up with the same kind of personality for the next 50 years, what would happen to the Western Hemisphere? Not just the Western Hemisphere, but what would happen to the people who do not understand the reason why we have political system was rebellion against imperialist-style government where majority of the masses were in poverty. So the communism and the free market democratic system have been in in a constant back and forth as to which is the best system, and that's what's playing out in the Caribbean. Just imagine if Roosevelt Skerrit, as he is indicated, aided by the Chinese government, is able to make a one-party state and the people of Dominica have no way of changing the government, so he can continue to steal from the state. He can continue to make himself wealthy. He can continue to manipulate the police force for the next 50 years. And when he's dead and gone, he can pass on his power to his kids so that they can rule over Dominicans. Just imagine if we had a communist country and we did not have democracy. But no political system is perfect. Human beings have always struggled in the who manages and who distributes the resources of the country. We can use a free market system. We can use communism. Communism have shown us it has failed, to the point where the Chinese government has adopted the free market system. However, they have kept the communist dictatorship style government and management. And even if, while they have trillions of dollars in surplus, they are not spreading that wealth in a true communist fashion. So what you have is the political elites become very, very wealthy, and the majority of the population is still under poverty. But Peltier, that is the fundamental problem we have. That is the root of the problem. So for all who wants to be communist, who wants to be run by a dictator, and all who wants to give up their ability to decide their own leadership, by all means, pick your poison. So I say, I will fight for any system that gives me an opportunity to select my leadership, gives me an opportunity to be a leader in my country, and gives me an opportunity to generate wealth irrespective of what another individual who does not have a moral guidance or compass does. And I think that's the problem we've had. And it's not perfect, but as I said, you got to pick your poison. And I say I will strongly support any action against the growth of communism in the Caribbean. And I think what these leaders are doing, they're using the excuse of sovereignty so they can continue to rape and plunder the people, as we see happening in Dominica with the Roosevelt Skerrit administration, aided by another branch of the communists, which is the Chinese Red Party.
Yeah, Caribbean leaders got no secret weapon to fight and cause mass destruction. We can show result and show principle as they do resist the devil. We don't need to climb on each other's back looking for US scraps, cause the only way we can survive is by calling for what is right. What is right? One voice, you can defend Caracas. One voice, give us our freedom back. One voice, me and Motley and Terrence True. One voice, Dr. Holness and Hero too. One voice, I know we born you are great. One voice, but they come out to your
I'm asking one of the Trumpers in Dominica, Andy. Andy's back. Andy, we're talking Cuba, and of course, how you doing? I know you've been following the discussion. You're a Trumper. Do you support what Trump is doing, against Cuba at this time?
Well, Matt, we knew. And last time I was on the show, I talked to you a little bit about it and explained to you that was the idea, that the Trump administration had some issues, and they were going to basically take out what was at the center of the issue, which is Venezuela was supplying oil to China, to Russia, Cuba, several other places, and it was supplying illegal oil, basically. There was an illegal trade going on for very long. And a lot of people might not remember you had the Cuban Missile Crisis. And that happened under the Republican administration, I believe, if I'm right. And I think there's still that idea that Cuba is opening their borders to people that are unfriendly to the American states. So therefore, there's still that idea that Cuba is still putting America at risk. And we saw that just about a year and a half ago, and I mentioned that some time back, that we had Russian submarines and Russian ships coming to Cuba just about a year and a half ago with a big demonstration of power and might that Russia were our friends and America couldn't touch us. And really and truly, I don't believe that there are any plans to invade a country like Cuba. And this is what America does with administrations that they do not prefer. What they will do is basically they will not kill you, but they will suck the oxygen out of the room. And that is what you're seeing right now. So by taking down Venezuela, where Venezuela was providing oil and Cuba was providing resources to them in exchange by the Russians that were, exchanging gifts again for oil. China that was exchanging gifts for oil. So all of that has come to an immediate halt. And what we're doing is basically putting the Western platform on a level playing field where everybody pays for what they want, everybody follows the rules, everybody pays exactly how much they're supposed to pay. So agree with it or not, all this that's going on now, Matt, was if you follow the history of it, you will see where all this turmoil comes from. And we expected this. And remember, I told you, Matt, if we keep up the tangent that we are doing in Dominica, we will end up like Cuba. So really and truly, what Cuba has to do now is the people of Cuba and the administration that runs Cuba needs to take a long, hard look and see if they need to turn their policies around. The dictatorship policy mentality that they've had for several years, the communistic authoritarian position that they've had for many years, those things need to be looked at now and say, hey, do we need to turn around because the Western civilization is no longer going to support these type of ideas? So all they really have to do is turn around and make a move and start going in the right direction, and things can change for them. But if the administration or the governments keep going in that direction where things are not being done in the correct way, you can see a quick downfall coming, because oil is the lifeline to any civilization right now. We cannot run our cars, we cannot run our planes, we cannot. And you're seeing what's going on. So I think what we should be doing in Dominica is really not paying too much attention to Cuba, but we should be analyzing our own resources here and seeing how those resources can change. Because if you notice, the allies such as Mexico, Russia, all those people have taken a step back and say, we do not want to get involved because this will ruin our own civilization.
So you
Mexico
basically
says they don't want tariffs.
So you basically saying CARICOM should stay away from that discussion right now?
Well, I think CARICOM has to stay away from it, because guess what CARICOM is? CARICOM is vulnerable. Remember, we are so close to the Americas. If they start cutting off things, man, and I've said it over and over again before, all they have to do is cut off their television to Dominica, because that's where we get our television from. They cut off communication from our banks. That's where we do most of our banking through. And they've already limited our visa access, and they're limiting several other things as they go along. So we need to look at ourselves. And a lot of people are looking at these other countries and saying, oh my God, this is bad, this is bad. But what they don't realize, Dominica, our small country that we live in every day, is on the exact same tangent. Because, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong.
Hold on. Are you saying Dominica is going down that path?
Well, Matt, remember a couple weeks ago, we had our administration says they're going to keep using Cuban doctors, right? Even though they were told and advised you can no longer use Cuban medical professionals. Is that correct? Do you remember that?
I remember.
So what we're doing is that we're not following what they're saying up top either. So we're going against the water right now. So we need to look at it and see if we can fall in line like Trinidad, fall in line like Guyana, fall in line. We've taken a look at our CBI program, Matt. We've continuously about the CBI program that was not a good fit for Dominica. Has our administration come forth and say, look, we are either abandoning the CBI program or we're going to radically change it so that it suits and fits in with the rest. So has our administration ever, has Roosevelt come out and said those things?
Nope.
So where are we at? Where are we at, Matt? We are on the same tangent with Cuba, where we are trying to defy America, and so CARICOM cannot step in at this point because CARICOM, when we had the Cuban Missile Crisis, CARICOM never stepped in. When we had Cuba provocating America, they never stepped in. So we have to understand that the agenda for America with Donald Trump right now is going to be America first. And every agenda that falls on his desk is going to have, what can we do to make America great? So what we need to do now, Matt, is start thinking, what do we need to do to make Dominica great? And we need to start seeing if we're aligning with China or if we're aligning with America. Because as far as I know, we're closer to America than China. So I don't know if you disagree with me on that, but the administration needs to come out and say something and do something.
They're forced to make a choice, then, Andy. That's what you suggested. They're forced to make a choice.
But that is exactly what's happening, Matt. They're forcing us to choose. And this is the position that Cuba is in right now. Cuba is being forced to choose whether it wants to stay with a communistic society, with a dictator, versus go to a democratic society where the people of Cuba can vote and be free. And I'm going to tell you, Matt, and this might be shocking to many people listening to your radio show right now, a lot of Cuban Americans actually agree with what's going on. They are actually at the point where they agree, and this is what they actually want. They want to see the Fidel Castros of the world, the administration like that. They want to see those gone. They want to see a free Cuba. They want to see Cuba exonerated, and they want to go back home. But they cannot go back home because the administration is keeping Cuba hostage. So meanwhile, while we're crying over here and saying, look what you're doing to Cuba, a lot of Cubans, and the same thing happened to Venezuela, a lot of Venezuelans actually agree with what happened in Venezuela. So I don't know if you want to approach that and see if that's the way that we want to go, where we're going against the administration. So this might be a good thing to help change Cuba into a better economical Western world country. And this might be the way to go.
All right, Andy Jolly, of course, giving us 2 pence. Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Right. What is right?
Let's speak one voice.
One voice. You can defend Caracas. One voice. Leave us our freedom back.
CARICOM has been very, very silent. Huh?
That's true. One voice. Dr. Holness and Carol too. One voice. I know we power you.
255. Hello, talk to me. Yes. Are you there, caller? Caller, are you there? Hello? Nobody there.
One voice. One voice. Just like Moses battled with Pharaoh. And David with the Philistine. Just like Martin, I had a dream. United Voice of the Caribbean.
Matt, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
Matt, is Andy telling us that because we are small, we should let people take over our sovereignty? Because CARICOM doesn't have a voice, we should allow Trump and his administration to just run rumshod over the Caribbean? What is to say when they're done with Venezuela, they're done with Cuba, they wouldn't come in and recolonize these little Caribbean states? But that doesn't make any sense to me. Obama tried to change. I don't know if Mr. Jolly is not remembering all of that, and take out the embargo, but allow these people to have their own sovereignty. And Trump came back in and undid everything Obama did. in the process. If you've been doing the same thing the same way for 50 years and it is not working, you've managed to cripple a nation, but you have not killed it. Why don't you just change the tactic and allow them to be their sovereign state and allow their people, when the time is right, to make their change? Why do you have to force yourself on anybody? It is the same type of rapist mentality. Take what is not yours kind of mentality. You're going after a people's country. It is not yours. We might be in the Americas, but you cannot come in again and try to recolonize and put things how you want. That doesn't make any sense to me. I might be living in the Americas, but that doesn't mean I want to see them go and invade Cuba. For what? This country has not bothered anybody. What the U.S. has not given to Dominica, Cuba has. The only thing a person can give you that they cannot take away that will make you rich is education. The U.S. ain't giving us education. Cuba is. Why go after Cuba? What has Cuba done now that is so offensive to the U.S.? Except to say, leave me alone, I will run my affairs how I see fit. That's it. So right now, apparently, we don't have the right to say no. Can you just put that in terms of a woman's body? You're telling me I cannot say no when a man is pushing himself on me? Come on, man, Matt. I can't sit back and just listen to this and say nothing. That doesn't make sense.
To fight and cause mass destruction. We can show resolve and show principle. As they know, resist the devil. We don't need to climb on each other's back, looking for US scraps. Cause the only way we can survive is by calling for what is right. What is right? One voice, you can't invade Caracas. One voice, give us our freedom back. One voice, me and what the terror's true. One voice, Dr. Holness and Scarecrow too. One voice, I know we power and you are great. One voice, but we can't bow to your dictates. One voice.
Matt, good afternoon to you. And good afternoon, Dominicans. I'm listening, Matt, and I do hope that a lot of people just picked up what Lennon said. You know, while we're busy talking about America, Americans will fight back, and they are. We're busy talking about America and Cuba, and this place is what they have done for us. Yeah, we are grateful. We are thankful. But the reality is what is going on and what has gone on in Cuba for years has been going on now in Dominica for 20-something years. That's the reality. Because in my opinion, we no longer have a democracy in Dominica. And to a certain extent, you know, I just feel like, yeah, one of those days, people are going to be standing on the streets in Dominica. Don't know. Some people will feel lightheaded, and some people would be like, boy, I never thought that's how it was going to end. And I think right now, it's like, yeah, Venezuela, Cuba, and let me tell you, the Chinese in the Caribbean, because Trump is just moving on it faster than the other presidents did. But none of the presidents like the fact that the Chinese are in the Caribbean. None of them. Trump is moving on it faster than others. But I'm telling you, after Cuba, where you think next? Who are they? Because I know there's somebody that they're really looking at. And, Matt, I heard that, they put up some notices in Debwash about the mining that's going on in Debwash. And what people did, they tore some of them up or all of them up and threw them away. Yeah, this is the moment you guys need to expose this. What is going on in Debwash? You guys need to make videos, take pictures, and somebody needs to take another trip to Washington, D.C. Because listen to me, they say, you beat the tablet while it's hot. And Dominique, tablet last show, start to beat the tablet. Mind your business and do what you need to do for your country. Because you right now are not any different from what is going on in Cuba. At least Cuba can even donate when there's a disaster. At least Cuba can still send people to other countries. They're still producing doctors and they're still producing professionals. At least I don't know of the guy building mansions. But that's not what you have in Dominica. You will be worse than Cuba. I'm just saying. So let's concentrate on Dominica right now because you guys are in the very same situation. Remember, your prime minister said that he doesn't want opposition. And look at all the shenanigans going on with electoral reform. This is a one-party state. And the same thing that is going on in Russia and in China, this is what is going on in Dominica, and the Chinese are backing it up. You guys be smart. Do what you got to do to save yourself and your country. I'm just saying that this afternoon. Have a great one, everybody. Bye-bye.
One Caribbean, one voice, one voice. Yeah, Caribbean leaders got no secret weapon to fight and cause mass destruction. We can show result and show principle as they know resist the devil.
Somebody says I agree with Mr. Jolly 100%. Let us love our country, country of birth.
Because the only way we can survive is by calling for what is right. What is right. One voice.
Matt, good afternoon. I just want to correct Andy there. The Cuban Missile Crisis took place under John Kennedy, which was a Democrat president. It's not under no Republican president. It was under Kennedy. Okay, take care. God bless.
Everybody, one voice, one voice. Just like Moses battled with Pharaoh, and David with the Philistine. Just like Martin, I had a dream. United Voice of the Caribbean. Oh, daddy, da da do, da da day. One Caribbean, one voice, one voice. Yeah, some of us battling for territory. We cannot be our own worst enemy. They send our people down one by one, and still we play American. It's only cricket and calypso bring us together when we singing no. It's time, some result we show, and tell this man no. Tell him no. One voice, you can't invade Caracas.
We'll give you a few more minutes and we'll wrap it up here. Yes, hello, yes.
Matt, good afternoon.
To yourself.
Matt, we've heard both sides of the story. I believe what we need to do as Dominicans is not just be selfish and just go with America. Really, we need to keep our consciousness If we have to go with them because of power, we go with them. But in the back of our minds, we must know who we are and know who our friends are. We also have to be that way. If we have to develop our own Mossad, we might have to. I know that's a dangerous statement, but I'm trying to let you understand the kind of mentality we need to have. Because Trump you had Puerto Rico. One of these hurricanes destroyed Puerto Rico. Trump went over there and threw paper towels at those people, and he was angry. And Puerto Rico, tell me, Matt, is Puerto Rico rosy? Is Puerto Rico doing well economically?
I don't think
Do you
so.
know?
No, I don't think so. I don't think.
Well, that's because Trump administration is neglecting it. And the people there are citizens of America. They are citizens. And he doesn't like Puerto Rico. And he's just neglecting Puerto Rico. I have Puerto Rican friends who complain all the time. So this administration is sort of a bizarre administration. They talk about democracy, but the leader wants to be a dictator. The same dictatorship these guys are talking about. He worships all those powerful men. He loves Xi Jinping himself. So it's a funny position we're in. We need to, we may bow to you, but in our minds, people, we want to get out from under you because we think you're still dangerous. Enough said.
All right, somebody said I should end with this one. Just imagine, John Legend, John Lennon there. We're gonna wrap it up with this one, huh? My friend in the Bronx, good morning, good afternoon to you. Imagine all the people. That's how I live it for today.
Imagine there's no heaven. See if you try.